He's a more moderate, I believe, Republican. And so, of course, it would be part of the scuttlebutt and it would get attention. What Crystal Ball, who wrote that tweet, is referring to, of course, is the fact that I, on the Democratic side, am primarying the president or whoever else will run. He hasn't announced yet. And as you said, I'm polling at 10%. So under normal circumstances, and there has been a lot of attention given to this, but there is still the narrative coming from some quarters of the Democratic establishment is that we should ignore Marianne Williamson because we have already decided that our candidate will be Joe Biden, and that everybody else should clear the field in order to make a stronger case in front of against the Republicans in 2024. Obviously, I disagree with that, or I wouldn't be running. My belief is that I am the best candidate to run against the Republicans in 2024 because I am not part of that political club. You know, it's almost like high school or something. The narrative then is that I'm unqualified, but what they see as qualified is someone who is so entrenched within that system that they know how to perpetuate it. My qualification is that I could help disrupt it. So there is a sense that if somebody's not one of them or coming from what they see as the qualified group, that we should just ignore it. And that's what she's talking about there. Now, my position is, first of all, this is a democracy, and it should be the voters who decide who will be the candidate in the general election, not men, sitting around a table smoking cigars as though it was 100 years ago. In addition to that, though, I find it very interesting what the Constitution actually says. The Constitution says that in order to run for president, you have to have been born here, you have to have lived here for 14 years, and you have to be 35 years old or older. Now, I think it's so interesting here because if the founders had wanted to say you had to have been a governor, you had to have been a senator, you had to have been a congressman, you have to have been a lawyer, they would have. And I think it's very significant that they did not. They were saying that every generation gets to determine for itself what skill sets in a leader they feel are most required to answer the challenges of a particular time in our history. And I submit to voters that someone being so entrenched in that system is not necessarily what we should consider qualification for cutting the cord with a clearly dysfunctional era of our history and giving birth to another one. Why would we look to that system at this point to disrupt itself? It won't. It's time for the people to step in.
Ms. Williamson, let me just say something. While as a host, I can't take certain positions on candidates, etc. It behooves me on something specific here. You alluded to the point that you had to be of a certain class, and if the founders had wanted it to be a former congressperson or former governor or whatever, that somehow they would make that clear. But the fact that the establishment has reacted to a Donald Trump who it was neither of any of that, who's been proven to not even support the military, to have someone who has shown complete disregard for the laws of the country, and he still gets the notion of that he could possibly be president again. He gets the notion that like what he says has any value. You have written several books. You have done quite a bit of studies. Why is it that a guy as inept as Donald Trump gets coverage and someone like you who is more read and has done more things philanthropically for people don't?
Well, if you look back to 2016, at the very beginning of that race, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders were getting roughly the same amount of people at their rallies. The press thought it was funny. Les Moonves, who was head of CBS at that time, said, bad for America, but good for CBS. They knew that coverage of Donald Trump would get them, people found it, this was the man who'd been on that television show. Was it The Apprentice that he was on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also at that time, the Democrats, theoretically, what we heard, Hillary Clinton, et cetera, thought it was good for them for it to be Donald Trump because they could beat him more easily. Obviously, they were mistaken. So the press went along with it, and because it was a profit-driven venture for them, and they thought that would get more viewers. Now, another interesting thing there is that the Republican voters don't have the codependent relationship with the RNC that Democrats have with the DNC. So remember, the Republican establishment did not want Donald Trump in 2016. And their message to their voters was, you can vote for Jeb Bush, you can vote for Marco Rubio, you can vote for John Kasich or whatever. And the Republican voters said, no, we want Trump. On the Democratic side, there is this codependency. There is this strange lack of independent thought, it seems to me, among Democratic voters, where the DNC says we're going with Biden. So all of these other politicians just line up, we're going with Biden. It's just so strange. It's and then this idea that anyone who would dare to primary him, I grew up at a time when Eugene McCarthy primaried Lyndon Johnson, Bobby Kennedy primaried Lyndon Johnson. Nobody suggested that it was weird.
Well, Kennedy primaried Carter, didn't he?
Well, but see, this is interesting because the Democratic Party elite, establishment elite, argue, yes, but every time an incumbent Democratic president is primaried, he loses, almost as though Teddy Kennedy lost the election. Ronald Reagan defeated Carter, not Teddy Kennedy.
Right.
So, I believe, in my experience being with voters, is that the voters aren't thinking about those games. The voters are thinking about, how could I get health care? How can I send my kids to college? How can I get a living wage? That's what voters care about. Those games don't interest. And also the voters hear me when I say, you want to think real hard about whether or not the kids, for instance, are the young people of America going to show up to go to battle for Joe Biden in the general election after he just approved the Willow Project? And they're already feeling so passionately the pain of insecurity regarding the survivability of the planet in 100 years. I would argue that it's illogical to just assume that Joe Biden could beat the Republican in 24 because he beat him in 20. I'm grateful to the president. I think anyone in the Democratic side is grateful to the president for defeating Trump. But this is going to be a different year, and I think this year we have to match the intensity and match the energy that they're going to be throwing at us, and I believe that's what I bring to the table.
I think you're absolutely right with respect to the energy has to be brought in 2024, and I think we are dreaming to believe that first of all that it's absolutely going to be Donald Trump, and the truth of the matter is that if it's not Donald Trump, I think the Democratic Party, the Democrats are going to be in trouble, because I think when you talk about energy, et cetera, and the youth and bringing somebody else that has a picture, that does have some say. Moreover, you spoke about the different policies specifically that most Americans want, that many are running to the center today. If you take a look at what they're doing today, they're running to a mythical center where the American people are not. It is a
mythical center. You are so right. It is mythical, and therefore it is delusional to think that's where you should be walking. The Democratic Party elite almost seem intent on shrinking their base.
Exactly.
They're turning their back on the people who should be, like the youth and the progressive youth. Democratic youth tend to be more progressive, and they're being treated like unruly children who need to sit down and just do what the grown-ups tell them. And the narrative is suggesting that these grown-ups, that's another myth, they've got this. They don't got this.
Well, they haven't had it in quite a while. I mean, the truth of the matter is, let's be real. I love that Biden defeated Trump. But Biden defeated Trump by less votes in electoral important state than Hillary did. Yes, Hillary won by 3 popular votes, and Biden won by 7 million popular vote. But Biden won the electoral states by only 40,000 votes, while Clinton by 70,000 votes. And that number should scare every single Democrat who doesn't want to ensure that going forward we have the policies that people really want.
It's so extraordinary because, like I said, it's just this lining up with what the DNC has to say. Even though if you look at poll after poll after poll, the American people want today what they indicated that they wanted at the end of World War II. They want universal health care. They want tuition-free college and tech schools. They want free child care. They want paternity and maternity leave. They want guaranteed sick pay, and they want a guaranteed livable wage. And this is what's different now, I think, having run in 2020. The American people have woken up. The American people get it. The American people are now like, what the hell? Why is it that the citizens of every other advanced democracy have those things, but we don't? So there's always been this, oh, it's very complicated. And I think people are understanding, no, it's actually not complicated so much as it's corrupt. The only reason we don't have universal health care is because of profits for the insurance companies. And the reason we have Americans rationing their insulin, the reason we have 18 million Americans who can't afford to pay for the prescriptions that their doctors give them, the only reason we have 68,000 people who are dying every year from lack of health care, 85 million people who are uninsured or underinsured, is because of profits for the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. We don't have common sense gun laws because of the profits for gun manufacturers. We have so many carcinogens in our food because of profits for big food, big agriculture, big chemical companies. We don't have a clean energy grid yet because of profits for big oil. And we have a foreign policy which is far too dominated by profit making of defense contractors. Let me tell you something. This secret is out.
Yes.
I think that what I just said is the big truth that is the only thing powerful enough to defeat the big lies that are going to be coming from the Republicans in 2020.
Absolutely, Marianne. When we talk about insurance, health insurance, and I want you to touch on this before we end, because I want the older, generally speaking, our older voters are kind of the ones that believe they want to be more centered, not realizing that center does not solve their problems. Let's give an example here. Medicare was something everybody could count on. They could count on having the independence of going to their own doctor, etc. Medicare Advantage is just the privatization of Medicare. What would you do? Would you ensure, if you were to become the candidate, to start supporting the policies that we're talking about to end all this attempt at the privatization of care for the elderly, etc.?
First of all, we have half of our elderly population living on $25,000 or less a year. And one of the reasons why the financial burden is so hard on our elderly people is because of healthcare costs, even with Medicare. Because remember, the crisis is not just lack of insurance, it's underinsurance.
Exactly.
Right. So, I was talking to a doctor one day who said, I used to give people a prescription and I used to talk about a treatment that they needed. The question used to be, what are the side effects? The question now is, what will it cost? Yes. And that includes people on Medicare, because then you have to Medicare Advantage and Medicare Advantage A and Medicare Advantage B, and it just wears people down. This is why we need to get rid of all of that. We need a universal health care system. Medicare, we know how to work Medicare. It becomes a Medicare for all, and it's not nearly as complicated as they say. This is not a government-run situation. It's government-funded. This is pro-business, by the way. This will help businesses to just get that off the table so it's not even something that they have to think about.
Okay, now thinking from the political strategy right now, if we want to be honest, there's a lot that likely, as you bump up into the polls, there's a lot of things that will likely need that fast response team. Have you already started to gather your fast response team to cover some of those issues both of us know will be the initial phase of attack on you?
Well, they've already started. They've already done it. There have been 3 pretty big hits. I know how they treated me when I was a mere inconvenience last time. So Yeah, they've already started. So give me an example of the fast response that I'll need, and I'll see if I can do it with you here.
Oh, no, I don't. We're not going to go there. I just want to make sure that you are ready for to have a fast response team, because in these political times and the speed at which social media moves, it's going to be something that has to get done.
Well, the problem with that is the real question, the real challenge becomes when to respond at all.
Right.
Because sometimes when you respond, you appear defensive, or you actually are bolstering the attention. You're actually giving attention to the attack. I believe, for the most part, I mean, some of it's just lies, and I try to explain that. But sometimes I think the best you can do is be who you are and say what you believe. And people, I believe that that's what people really want. In the meantime, yeah, you try to respond. I know when the president's press secretary said something about me, I made a video, but I can't make a video about every attack, or then it looks like I'm whining. Oh, how they treated me. So it's real difficult to.
Well, I don't think it's I tell you the same thing I've told other Democratic candidates. In my humble opinion, I don't think it's about you responding, but it's about leaving nothing unanswered. It doesn't have to be Marianne Williamson, or it doesn't have to be whomever else runs for the Democratic ticket. It's just that Democrats have a tendency to leave things unanswered, and everything, I think, should be answered.
Well, it's a problem, though, because it's back to like, when was the last time you beat your wife? It's like, but I didn't beat my wife.
But let me tell you how.
Someone, I didn't mock a fat person.
Let me tell you how I use those things, and I have suggested to other candidates to use.
Okay, please do.
Let me give an example. Here in Texas, we don't have the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which means that over 2,000 Texans die every day. So when somebody attacks a Democratic candidate that says you are soft on crime, the answer is you have put guns in the people's hands, and you have put a logical gun in the people's head as you've denied them coverage and caused the implicit murder of our citizens. In other words, I always turn an attack right around to show that what they are doing is pretty much projection on what actually occurred.
Well, I'd love your help when they start coming after me. I think that was a brilliant pivot, what you just said.
It's the truth about it, Marianne, is that it is reality. It's not, they may come with a lie, but you respond to the lie with a reality, a real state. Republicans in Texas are, in fact, killing Texans.
Yeah, it's like when people say I'm anti-science. Well, I think the anti-science person is the president who has approved of the Willow Project, even though scientists have said that if we continue to extract oil from the ground the way we have been, that this planet could become uninhabitable. So who's anti-science here? Also, the issue of who takes illness. People say you don't take illness seriously. Who is it that doesn't take illness seriously? Me, who's standing for Medicare for all, universal health care, or the president who said that he would veto a Medicare for all bill if it came to his desk.
And those are the arguments one would make. Those are the arguments one would make in response to whenever folks come, especially when it's against a policy, a humane policy that makes lives better for the vast majority of American citizens. Well, Ms. Williamson, in closing, why don't you give me a closer, let my audience know why it is that they must give you a serious thought when they're so scared that if they get anyone other than Biden, it's death of the American democracy. Well,
I do understand that we all want the authoritarian neo-fascist threat that is at our door, indisputably. All of us who recognize that take very seriously how important it is that the Democrat win, that the Republican candidate, if it is one of those candidates, does not win in 2024. There is no doubt about that. We're grateful. I'm certainly grateful. I know most of us are to the president for defeating Donald Trump in 2020. But 2024 will be a very different year. And there's going to be a wave of energy coming at us in 2024. And what we must do is meet that energy. And they're going to be coming at us with big lies. And the only way to defeat that is with big truths. Now, the president is planning to make his slogan, his message, that the economy is doing well. But that is contrary to the visceral experience of the majority of Americans. The economy is only doing well for 20% of Americans. For 80% of Americans, life is a continuous and chronic economic struggle. So to say that the economy is doing well is not the message that is going to win in 2024. The message that's going to win in 2024 is not one in which the Democrats are offering to help you survive an unjust system. The message that's going to win in 2024 is one in which we say we're going to end the unjust system. We're going to do more than have some incremental changes here that might make it a little bit better here or there. The answer, the winning message for 2024 is that we need to make a complete economic U-turn. Because over the last 48 years, $50 trillion, there has been a massive transfer of wealth in the shape of $50 trillion that has gone from the bottom 90% of Americans to the top 1%. The average American worker has been squeezed and has been exploited by a trickle-down economic mindset, which, while it began with the Republicans, we should face the fact no Democrat stopped it. And it is time for us to end that chapter of American history. It is time for a season of repair because of all the tremendous damage that this has done. It has done damage to people's bodies. When I was growing up, Blue Cross Blue Shield was a nonprofit. It has done damage to people's ability to get educated. Until the 1960s, there was tuition-free college in this country. It has left people falling apart on the inside and on the outside. In the richest country in the world, there is no reason for the average American to live with chronic economic struggle. So the answer to win in 2024 is not to somehow gaslight people so they feel it's not as bad as it is. The way to win in 2024 is to admit that it's as bad as it is and to commit to the complete, not just alleviation of stress, but a complete economic turnaround in the form of universal health care, in the form of tuition-free college and tech schools, in the form of free childcare, in the form of paid leave, family leave and sick pay and a guaranteed livable wage. That is what I'm standing for. That is the big truth. The big truth is that things are not okay. So the politicians on the Democrats are going to say, well, basically they're okay. They're not okay. And they can be okay, but not until we face the fact that the majority of American people suffer and suffer unnecessarily chronic hardship economically. It is only because of this unjust, rigged economy in the United States. And the president we need is someone who will call that, who will name it, and who will do everything possible to change it.
Marianne Williamson, presidential candidate, Democrat, 2024. Thank you so kindly for this on-your-fly interview this afternoon.
Well, it was lovely being with you. People can learn more by going to Marianne 2024. And you said before, why must people vote for me? Obviously, people don't have to vote for me. I wouldn't even say should vote for me. I would say, however, that I'm deeply honored if people will give me a listen, will look up, if you feel that this is an agenda that needs to be submitted and that the Democratic or independent voter should have a chance to vote for, with which to face the Republicans in 2024, I hope you will go to Marianne 2024, do what you can, support, and let's continue with this thing and have a season of repair and a new beginning in the United States.
Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. Marianne Williamson.
Always nice to see you. Thank you.
Well, folks, first of all, I want to thank Marianne Williamson for taking that impromptu call from me yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning, because it was driven by a tweet by Crystal Ball that was showing that even as she's 10% in the polls, the media only covers certain people irrespective of polls. But anyway, folks, 713, tell me what you think about the interview. 713-526-5738. Let me know what you think about what Marianne had to say. Marianne Williamson had to say. 713-526-5738, extension número 2, 713-526-5738. I'd love to hear from you right now, if you will. 713 526-5738. You know, there are certain things that she said in that interview that really touched me. When she said 20% of Americans are doing just fine, 80% really sort of paycheck to paycheck, if not worse. And I don't think people understand that, because if you watch TV, those people who produce TV programs, those people who are doing all that they do on TV, here is the thing, folks. What I find most amazing, right? These are people that, that's a lot of people. America is a country of 330 million people. 20% is 60-something million people doing great. I want to ask you a question. That's a lot of people doing great. That's a lot of people doing great. And when it can give the false impression that that looks like America, it doesn't. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call, extension 2. 713-526-5738. Hit the number 2 and you'll come directly to me. Thank you so kindly for calling in. Come on in, Alistair. How are you doing, Alistair? Let's see. There you go.
I am good.
Talk to me.
There I am. Hey, brother, I'm good.
Yes.
As a person that was a victim of being called different names pretty much all of my childhood, I don't like bullies.
Right.
I don't like people that do name calling and try to knock down credibility by calling someone something inappropriate
Right.
or not factual.
Right.
And the fact that that happened to Marianne Williamson,
Right.
that our last, voting cycle that she participated in, it was just,
Right.
it angered me, because it's like, you don't take someone seriously because I think they felt she was a threat.
Yeah, well, actually, that's what I mean. They felt she's a threat because she is a threat. If you are somebody who are putting out policies that most Americans want, and I'm not talking about just Democratic policies. I'm talking about policies that Republicans want as well.
Human kindness policy.
Right. And, and like I said, I am practical. I'm not taking positions or anything of that sort. But I enjoyed speaking to her. This is about I think the second or third time that I've spoken to her. This actually,
she really is interesting to talk to.
Yes, she is. And she hits the points on. And you know what, Alistair? We can afford it. They lie to you when they say we can't afford it. We can afford it.
Or when they say it's complicated.
Right.
Please. Only because they want to make it complicated.
Exactly.
So that in this instant gratification mindset that a lot of people have, oh, well, we'll let it go then. Like 5 minutes later, something else is on the news feed and we're distracted.
Right.
It's not that damn complicated. Pardon my language.
No, well, I get your language, and your language is justified. But anything else you want to say, my wonderful Alistair?
No, we are all good, brother. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for listening. Okay, I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Sherry, line número 2. Come on in, Sherry. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm well. Thank you for asking. How are you today?
I am doing fine. Sherry, talk to me.
I just wanted to say, listening to Ms. Williamson, she gave a great breakdown, very thoughtful and precise observation of what's going on in this country and, how we need to move about repairing things. But quite frankly, even though it makes so much sense, what you said, I just feel very pessimistic that something like that could ever happen simply because it makes too much sense. And
I love you for saying that, Sherry, because I so love you for saying that. Let me tell you something, Sherry. I am not doing this because I just love to talk and hear myself talk and all that kind of stuff. I'm doing this because I think all of us inside of us, if we ever decided to realize that we are already empowered, that we can actually make those things a reality. Think about this. The only reason we don't is that we have enough people believing the wrong set of people who have already screwed them throughout their lives. Imagine if Sherry, who just said, this stuff makes too much sense. Imagine if you were able to tell or speak to others at event that in your sphere that believes you and start to say, okay, Sherry, I'm going to give you, I'm going to follow you this time. And imagine if you teach each of those people in your spheres to do the same and ask them to do the same. There's this stuff called geometric progression, right? That we can actually do these things on the grassroots. The problem is too much of us initially start pessimistic. I'm a forever optimist no matter what's in front of me. And what I'm trying to tell you, my dear, is that the fact that you heard what we need and see what we need means that we can actually move forward.
Yes, but at the same time, we really need to think about the system and the machine that's keeping these things in place, because that needs to be dismantled.
There you go.
And it's a challenge, but I agree with you. Things can happen, but it may be on a gradual basis. Yes. Because you've got to get to people and prepare them for how they need to implement these changes and go about doing it, and making our voices heard when we get to the polls and such.
Sherry, you just said a magical word, and I don't mean to interrupt, but the reason I wanted to answer you is you said, remember, it has to be gradual. Look, I don't want incremental. I do want gradual. There's a difference, right? And gradual change means you're actually moving. It's all the gradually is you're moving at a constant. It's not like increment, move here, drop, increment, move. It's just a gradual movement to what you got to do. And people can deal with gradual movement. What they can't deal with is sharp changes. That's just how we are. And the fact that you said gradually, it's like, yes. Now, when you're talking to your folks, they need to know we're talking about gradual movement. Gradual movement. I agree with you, my dear.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts, and thank you so much for what you do there.
Thank you so kindly, sir. You have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
All right, let's go to line 3. B, come on in. Line 3, you are on.
I just caught, hello?
Yes, sir, I'm here. You're here.
All right. I just want to say I caught the candidate that she had on air, just a little bit of it, and I was agreeing with absolutely everything she had to say.
Mm-hmm.
However, I wanted to ask, is she running for presidential nominee?
Yes, she's running for president of the United States against as a Democratic candidate, and more. I think the truth of the matter is, I wish more would join into the fold so that we can get that in. Let me ask you to hold 1 second because I need to ask for calls. Folks, give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension 2. You'll get on air quickly. I'm here with B right now, and B has some commentary about the interview he just had. 713-526-5738, extension 2. Talk to me, B.
Yeah, so I was just going to add that I think we do need to be mindful of what happened in the last election on the Republican side and how they were actually hurt to an extent by the Libertarian vote,
right?
Which split the vote. So we just need to remain cognizant of the fact that we need to stand united. I don't consider myself a Democrat, but I do recognize that they are the only ones that are standing in the way of fascism at the moment. So we just need to keep that in mind. And I really do think that the candidate that you just had on the air will be an excellent option in the future.
Let me tell you, B. Let me tell you, with all the things that I know, the folks that, at least the activists that I hang with, they are very cognizant of what you're saying, and what you're saying is absolutely correct. One has to be careful when you're doing these things because you don't want an ultimate bad to occur from the for the good. So we are cognizant about that. We want to hear the voice, and we want the challenges to come out there, sort of to put people in the right frame of mind that yes, in fact, something can be done. And I think what Marianne did right there with her interview, she distinctly showed the thing that not only Democrats want, but independents and many Republicans as well. And it's just a humane kind of a thing. B, anything else you'd like to say before I let you go, B?
Nope.
Look, thank you
I agree with you entirely.
Thank you so kindly for calling. We could not do this without you guys. All right?
All right, have a good one.
You have a great one, sir. All right, folks. The next subject, unless it looked like somebody else is going to want to talk about Marianne Williamson, so I will wait for that. Call back. Yeah, I tell you what. I'm sorry we accidentally dropped you. Please call back at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension 2. We accidentally dropped the phone system that we have is not the easiest one to use, so please forgive us for that. Give us a call back. The phones are ringing, so give us a call, 713-526-5738. All right, folks. The second subject that I'm going to be talking about today after the calls is about Marjorie Taylor having been on 60 Minutes. Now, I hear a lot of progressive really raising hell about that. They are really, really upset. And so I tell you what, I want to talk about that, but I'll talk about that after Paula. So let's bring Paula in, and then I'll talk about that. Paula, come on in. You are in politics then, right?
Hi, Mr. Willis.
Yes, how you doing?
This is Paula. I'm a senior citizen, and I agree with everything you say, and Marianne Williamson, our government really needs to be turned upside down. I actually just collect my thoughts as the years go by, and I do sometimes send these suggestions out. And, of course, I write to my congressman all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to send what I've compiled with, which is, overturning Citizens United and addressing term limits and, in fact, not having any political parties at all.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of not having political parties. I love that, Paula.
Yes, I would just like to be, Joe from Wisconsin or something
right.
like that.
Are you from Wisconsin?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But it really does, as she said, it really comes down to money.
Right.
They have too much power. I think our servants would love us to call them leaders. I think I talked to somebody else who had a program on this station, and I said, please don't call them leaders. They are our servants, and we need to keep track of them, keep an eye on them.
I love that.
They're making rules for themselves that don't have anything to do with us. Of course, I address the military-industrial machine. I'm also born in the 50s, and oh my gosh, the amount of money spent on that every year is just phenomenal.
Right.
But all the congressmen seem to agree on that. Write the check, 1.7 trillion, and then they can't do an infrastructure bill and throw some money at that. So. That needs to be turned around. I know it would probably upset our economy horribly, but I think, and this sounds like a pipe dream, it probably is, but it would be so wonderful if our tax money could stay local, the majority of it could stay local, and a smaller amount could be for the county. Another certain amount would be for the state, and a certain amount would be for the government.
Paul, I want to stop you right there, because what you just said immediately eliminate red states from being able to fund themselves. Because red states like to talk about independence, and they like to talk about low taxes, etc., which they do in their states, but their people are always dependent on everybody else to support those particular states. So when you talk about if we were to arrange our tax system like you spoke about there, it would be perfect. We would have people more self-sufficient. But you're correct. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I just, my sister told me the same thing. I sent her that too. And she goes, well, she lives in Nevada, and Las Vegas makes it a very rich state.
Right.
And she's correct there. But maybe there should be some kind of equality based in there somewhere, because I think a lot of this comes down to money. Like she said, it's an economic
issue.
It does need to be overturned. It needs to be looked at in a different way.
You're absolutely right. Paula, are you a regular listener, or did you just kind of drop by on us right now?
I try to listen when I can.
Okay, well, I need to jump to another call, but I want to tell you your ideas are everybody's ideas should be out there, and there's one thing that you said that I didn't like. I think it's a pipe dream, or I think is that I don't want people talking like that. I want people to have dreams and think about how to effect their dreams as opposed to thinking their dream is a pipe dream. Because if you think that there's something that you want, I guarantee you there are hundreds of thousands of other Americans that think the same way you do.
Yes, I just wish they would. Our servants would listen to us.
There we go. Well, we can make that happen with our vote, but we have to be consistent. Paula, thank you so kindly for calling in, my friend. You have a wonderful day. Let's go to Steve on line 3. Come on in, Steve. How are you doing today? Steve on line 3. Come on.
Thanks for having Marianne Williamson, I believe. Marianne.
Yeah, Marianne Williamson.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even heard about her. So thank you. She's so right.
First of all, that's what independent radio is all about, my dear friend. That's why we're here. Go ahead, my friend.
Oh, yeah, she's so right that the money I had last year only allows me to buy 6 or 7 eggs this year as opposed to a dozen eggs last year. And paying for college for a daughter and trying to figure all that out. Hopefully that message gets over to Biden and they don't tell us that everything is great, because there's a big threat. And I wish we had a 3-party system, but we're not going to get there today, are we?
No, sir. But you know what? Where are we going to get? You don't have to have a 3-party system to elect the right kind of people. And what I suggest that we start doing is not buying the rhetoric and really start electing the right people. Basically, I am biased in that I think the values that most Americans say they want are progressive values, and as such, we should be electing progressive candidates and get out of the what do they call it? Thinking about the social type things. Not social type things. The what kind of wars do they call those wars? The crazy wars. Anyway, we don't need any of that. So, but I'm with you, my friend. I am with you. I think the politicians need to listen, but more importantly, I think we need to vote appropriately and start voting our pocketbooks.
Thanks for being you. Yeah, your talk show brings economics and politics, as well as just living life normally all together. So I really enjoy listening to you. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay.
You too.
All right, let's go to Colby, numero uno. How you doing, Colby?
Hey, Berto.
Talk to me.
Good interview with Marianne.
Thank you, sir.
And,
Marianne is just great.
She says a lot of good things. I really like what she had to say. Realistically speaking, I'm not all that optimistic about her winning the presidency. But, so far she's got my support, I guess. I do think that she will do a good job of shedding the light and bringing the progressive agenda to the forefront.
Right.
And should she, not achieve her goal, I hope that doesn't discourage her from trying something else, perhaps on a more like a local level, or perhaps even working in the administration.
Right. I think the important thing is that she's going to force these issues onto the stage. That's very important, right? Now, if she wins, for her, it would be icing on the cake. But these things that, she said nothing that I am pretty sure 80% of Americans would say they want. 80%. Notice that 20/80 that she spoke about. When you watch TV and see all the great things that are happening in America, it's 20% of the people that really have that for them. In other words, when you look at that 20% of Americans, a lot of people, 66 million people or so, and that can look like a lot of people, but when you talk about the other 270 million people in dire straits, my friend, we got to do better, Colby. We got to do better.
Yeah, that 80%, they're too busy struggling to have the free time to get their message.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Anything else you want to say, Colby, before I jump to Johnny? Whoop, Colby, did I miss you? Colby. Okay, I think Colby's gone. Thank you, Colby. I don't know, something happened on the phone, but let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
With you?
You're with me, brother Johnny.
Okay. It's confusing because your soundboard, sometimes I hear that swish sound and sometimes I don't, so I'm not sure if I'm just talking to the wall. Anyway, I want to dovetail with a comment you just made moments ago to the female caller, I believe. You were instructing her, to use it kindly, to not be so defeatist in attitude. And in that regard, there was a female caller in her 60s to Tom Hartman last week, I think it was Friday, where she, in the first 2 minutes of her call, of her 5-minute plus call, in the first 2 minutes, she 4 different times said how she was frightened. I'm so frightened of Donald Trump and Republicans, but specifically Donald Trump. And she listed some of the things, I referenced some of the things he's done, which is accurate. But I would say to people like Carol and everybody else who listens to independent media, nonprofit media, don't go on the airwaves and tell everybody and his brother who's listening, who might be Republican bad actors, don't tell them you're frightened. Show your bold face. You're on the radio. No harm is going to come to you. and one other thing, we also need to be bold enough to call out people on our side who used to be on our side. People in the press like Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, and most recently Chris Hedges.
Right.
Chris Hedges, of all people. That's the last person, the last journalist, commentator, analyzer I would expect to articulate right-wing friendly points.
You know,
I don't know what his motive is. Maybe somebody has some dirt on him and they blackmailed him, or maybe he's desperate for money, or maybe
no. Let me tell you what it is. I mean, here Ukraine has done something. I was talking to Tori earlier about it. Tori, we spoke about the Ukraine issue and how a lot of these guys are going crazy in the way they're saying we need to stop Ukraine. And what I tried to talk to Tori about is to say, understand what people are really saying. I mean, the way they come out, it seems like they're just anti the Ukraine policy and pro-Russia policy and all of that. And what's really happening is, for all practical purposes, countries like China, they have triangulated the United States, because let me tell you what a lot of people see. But first of all, for all of those listening, there was some chatter that somehow I was anti-Ukraine involvement. I am not foolish. I do understand why Biden is doing what Biden is doing. But what I'm saying is, for the people in America, when they see that it's easy for us to get billions of dollars to Ukraine, when they see that it's easier for us to do all of that, when the water, there's no good water in Jacksonville or Flint, and when there are farmers that are in dire straits, it's not hard for the right-wing point to seep in. That's why President Trump came about in the first place. We are not smart in the way we help the countries like Ukraine because of a geopolitical reason, while at home we have certain issues that need not be. Somebody should get rid of the Mississippi, should arrest the Mississippi governor for murder of the people who have died from water contamination. They should arrest the governor of Michigan who allowed Flint people to die. They should then immediately invest the $1 billion to fix Jacksonville and the $1 billion to fix Flint. And you know what? They have proven to us by the amount of money they've sent to Ukraine that it can be done. And that's the issue. Go ahead, Johnny.
Not the current governor, not her. The one before.
No. I'm sorry. Hey, thanks for correcting me, Johnny. Johnny, thank you for correcting me, sir. Thank you.
But I wanted to dovetail one more thing you just said with regards to Ukraine.
Yes, sir.
I have a theory, and I probably won't be proven for another decade or longer until this stuff comes out, until the historians get a hold of all these documents. But you remember when Donald Trump, when he was in the White House, when he went over to talk to Vladimir Putin and other leaders, how he would kick out the translators so there would be no record or no...
Well, we know what was going on there. Yes, I remember that very, very well.
My theory is that he provided direct verbal knowledge to Vladimir Putin for Putin to share with his generals with regards to intelligence from our people with regards to Ukraine, so that Putin could have used that.
Look, you and I, let me tell you, Johnny, you and I have no proof of that, but we can infer that. I mean, there are a lot of things we can infer. I mean, what you just said, you and I should not tell folks we know that happened, but we should be telling folks we think that happened. We make it clear that it's not an absolute. But let me tell you why I think we need to make it clear that we think it happened with the circumstantial data we have out there, because we need to let it be known that our our former president was likely, and notice I didn't say is, I said was likely a traitor.
I said he likely did. I didn't make it declarative.
I didn't say you did.
Right?
I didn't say you did, sir.
And we are proper in our putting forth these ideas because there's lots of very strong circumstantial evidence. For example, Donald Trump, not Jimmy Carter, not Barack Obama, not Bill Clinton or George Washington told the American people, when you put me in the White House, I will not take any presidential salary for the 4 years. But at the end of 4 years, he made off with more than $1.6 billion, as in boy,
it is amazing.
That's
hey, buddy, Johnny.
That's 1,000 times the amount of presidential salary.
Johnny, I got one more topic I want to speed through. Can I do my last topic and speed through it, sir?
As long as you make sure that people connect the dots with the money that he stole from the American people, that he used to state secrets, that he squirreled it away, and his email irregularities all are...
Okay, Johnny, release me. I talk to you later, Johnny. Thank you so kindly, my brother. All right, okay, real quick. Folks, I don't want you guys to be really crazy mad about having Marjorie Taylor on 60 Minutes. She did what she needed to do. I got 1 minute. She did what she needed to do. I'm going to talk about that at 3 o'clock. Anyway, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!